Hi guys, today we'll be looking at FM Acoustic FM255 Mark II clone, and before we begin, all the necessary links and description of my system setup can be found in the description below the video. So basically this is a clone of MF Acoustic truly balanced Class A preamplifier that was being produced in Switzerland for something like 11 years. The last production year, as far as I could find on the web, was 2012. I have a version that's being sold without remote control, but there are also versions that have that one, and it's possible to get one with remote. Yeah, so moving on to the specification, I actually couldn't find anything on the clone. Even in the offer pages, except one number, and that's frequency response. It's specified for the clone that it's good between 20 Hz up to 40 kHz, but that doesn't give any information about the band edges. Is it given for -3 decibels, like the standard specification should be given, or -6 or whatever. So that was just one number that I was able to find for the specifications. Yeah, sorry, one more. Power requirements. It's specified to be using up to 30 watts, and that's it. Okay, so build. And what do we have externally here? The build is very good. Let's remove the top cover, because I've already unscrewed this. It's being anodized to gold color, and it looks really good, and it's very thick. I think it's something like 4 millimeters, and it's solid and heavy. Okay, with that out of the way, let's start with the external door. What do we have on the front? On the front we have 5 input selection switches. These are vintage looking and feeling switches for input selection. We have tape loop switch. I'll get to that in a moment. We have mono switch that changes the output signal to mono. We have phase inversion. This switch changes the phase for the XLR outputs, and we have -20 decibels attenuation mode. And there we have balance pot and volume level pot, volume control and balance control here, and of course power switch. Yes, we have nothing on the back, on the sides, and in the back we have power socket, we have balanced outputs, we have single-ended outputs, one pair here, we have 3 balanced inputs, and we have 2 sets of unbalanced inputs, and we have 2 sets of balanced inputs. As you can see, we have no output and inputs for tape loop, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. Let's look at the bottom of the device. Only one interesting thing here: switch that allows you to switch between 250 or 220 volts power input and 110 volts power input. And we also have a sticker with model number and producer manufacturer. Foshan Borian's technology is actually Breeze Audio, as far as I know. One important thing to note here that I've learned since my first look video and during my listening session: these feet, they are nice to have these rubber rings here, but as long as I cannot remove that one now, they tend to stick to your equipment. So if you'll be lifting up this preamplifier, you gotta watch out for these rubber rings being stuck on the equipment below, because once you'll remove them from here, if you try to put down the preamplifier onto some other equipment, you may as well scratch the surface, the top lid of the other component, because after removing these rubber rings, you will be standing the preamplifier basically on a round metal sharp feet. And right now they are not very keen to get out, but every single time that I was moving this preamplifier, at least two of them remained sticked to the component that was below. Okay, so let's have it like that, and let's rotate it. What can we see here? Okay, we have very small 50 VA transformer here. We have a set of filtering capacitors. Each one of them is 2200 microfarads, and these are blue capacitors are LNAS. These also are LNAS. The black ones that can be found here, and here are Rubicons, so quite nice. Selection of components. We have a fuse here. Fuse is specified for 0.3 amperes, so it's 300 milliamps. And we have XLR inputs, XLR outputs, and the small board for RCA inputs and outputs that's connected via flat cable with the main PCB. This is not something that's coming from the original FM preamplifier. The original preamplifier used, I'll try to zoom in for you, yeah, maybe even more, these connection points, this set of solder points, and the RCA inputs were soldered via short cables to the board here. And if you take a closer look, you'll see that there are connection points for two sets of RCAs here, and one of them was obviously RCA out, and one of them was for tape loop input. So basically the board, the PCB board and the switch are here. All the components necessary to have tape loop are here, but the board with sockets doesn't have enough RCAs for that. So I guess that if you'd be willing to drill additional holes through the chassis and connect tape input loop directly to PCB, you'd get working tape loop connection. Okay, another interesting thing, set of deep switches. These switches are used according to FM acoustic documentation to set the gain for preamplifier, although I was not able to find any documentation on setting them. However, to be honest, I wasn't looking very thoroughly. I've just googled a few times relevant phrases and nothing came up. Okay, this preamplifier is one of the FM acoustic clone builds that's using this secret preamp modules. Inside of each one of these black boxes is a set of discrete components, and this is probably filled with some kind of resin, and it's being soldered directly to the board as in original FM acoustic preamplifier. The producer says that these had been completely reverse engineered, so they should be working exactly the same as the originals. I've seen them a couple of times available on eBay and on Ali if you'd like to buy them separately, but that was just just a few times. These are not very popular, obviously. I'm stating this because in the comments under FM300A power amplifier, there was a discussion on availability of those in case when something breaks and you would need to replace them. Yeah, okay, so I think I've covered this part of the PCB. Let's take a look on the other side, yeah. So switches, traditional switches like I remember from the equipment produced in 80s, 70s, but they get the job done. Volume control is executed using Blue Alps potentiometer, and balance control is done via some very cheap looking pot here. Interesting thing here that was actually a little funny for me is diode for power state. These spacers are actually used as power lines for plus and minus, and they are connected to diode here. Okay, so I think that covers the build. Yeah, one thing important to note here is that there are many variants of FM255 Mark II available, and they are differing not only because of the remote, but also some details of the internal build. For example, in this particular case, we have this flat cable for RCA inputs. But I've seen also variants that will have RCA board connected to the main board as it was in original via separate cables. And there is also a variant that has some kind of relays placed around here. And this one has only one Omron relay here. Yeah, so that's it. That's all about the build, I think. Yeah, a couple of more things that I've noted here. Original FM255 had double shielding on the transformer. As you can see, this one has nothing like that. Although I remember that the buying options included not only this version but also a version with German block transformer. But still, I don't suppose that one will be coming with additional shielding too. Yeah, okay, so let's rotate that like that. Let's maybe I won't be closing the lid, but I've sat down in more comfortable way, and let's talk about the sound. Starting with, as usual, the bass. The bass is very solid. I was testing this preamplifier with D5 Pro, which is actually a Dartzil clone, and I've chosen this one because more and more of you guys are using Dartzil, so it may be a kind of reference point. So anyway, with this preamplifier, D5 Pro gets a good shot of additional bass. It's very organic in nature. Remember, that's class A, full balanced build. So this bass is organic, but it's not super precise. It's not super controlled. I won't go as far as to say it's loose, because it's not. But it's not super precise. I would say that this bass sounds a little warm, with a good amount of mid bass. It's not overdone, it's not muddy at all. All in all, I like the bass here because it gave the solid foundation for all other ranges of the sound. So the bass here nicely complemented D5 Pro. Okay, moving on to the mid-range. Mid-range was very sweet, if you know what I mean, very musical and very delicate. Again, class A. There is no sibilance at all. Vocals are buttery smooth, especially female voices. I would say this is excellent class A performance. It's not the king of detail here, but the vocals are really, really good. Treble. Treble is airy and very musical. It's very easygoing, it's very relaxing, it's extended, but again, it's not super detailed. It's not bright, and that's, I don't know how to put it. That's for sure. It's not bright. You can't call this preamplifier a bright preamp. But it's not dark either. It's not muddy, it's not dark, it's just right. Moving on to the detail section. This preamp is detailed, but it's not very detailed. I felt that when used with D5 Pro, it was losing some fine stuff that I could hear when I was driving power amplifiers straight from the digital to analog converters that I've been using during my listening sessions. So, with this preamplifier, I was losing some of the details, but I was gaining timbre and some kind of richness in the sound. But getting back to the detail, you have to remember that putting any kind of preamplifier in your signal path is adding additional device and additional interconnect cable. So in, I would say, 80-90% of cases, you will lose some finest detail along the way, unless the interconnects and the preamplifier are top-notch quality. But that's very rare. I mean, I haven't seen preamplifier that would have signal-to-noise ratio and THD ratios as for latest generation of Delta Sigma digital to analog converters. It's at least one level, one range worse. Okay, but I was digressing. Let's move to the imaging. This is a strong point for this preamplifier. It has excellent imaging and separation. Scene gets better compared to Dartzil power amp clone when I was using it alone. So this preamplifier brings to the table not only the timbre, the rich timbre of the voices, of the sounds, not only additional shot of bass, but also excellent imaging and separation. Okay, now I have this section of my notes, the section of things that I wrote down during listening sessions that do not exactly fit in previous categories. And these, my thoughts are that it's very sensitive to EMI. I had to use power line, maybe some background information. I have 2 levels apartment, and the floor here is made of concrete reinforced with steel bars. This thing works as an excellent shielding Faraday cage for my Wi-Fi signals. So in order to be able to access the network on the lower level of my apartment, I had to use power line adapters, and these power line adapters are used to deliver local Ethernet network downstairs. So they are using the power lines that I have here in my apartment. And this preamplifier is very sensitive to EMI. I was able to hear the network traffic. I know it sounds stupid, but when I was doing listening sessions, I realized that I'm hearing repeatable noises from both speakers. And by coincidence, I've seen that these noises are corresponding the moments when one of my HTPCs was flashing drivelet. It's using SSD drive, so it shouldn't be noisy at all. But then I realized that probably somebody downstairs is watching some kind of movie or listening to the music from my collection. And I was right. So basically, each time a burst of information was being sent down the Ethernet power line converter, this preamplifier was picking this up from the mains as noise. I've prevented this using one of my do-it-yourself EMI filters. There's another video on that one. It's very cheap, it's very simple to do, and it effectively removed that noise. But this is something to remember. If you have noisy power line, if your power socket is noisy, you will be able to hear that with this preamplifier. Okay, another thing to note here is that this preamplifier shouldn't be used, maybe shouldn't be used with high sensitivity inputs for the power amplifier. I said it wrong. You shouldn't use power amplifier that has highly sensitive inputs with this preamplifier, because in such combination you'll be able to hear very slight, very delicate hiss coming from speakers. You won't be able to hear that in your normal listening position, but once you get very close to the speaker and you put your ear to the speaker, you'll be able to hear that. However, when I was checking out this preamplifier with some other power amplifiers in my collections, some of them I've already reviewed, that had lower input sensitivity, the hiss was gone. So that's something important to note if you'll be deciding if you want to buy one or not. Okay, let's get back to my notes. Yeah, that's it. Okay, on the sound notes, it seems it's preferring the grand scale of music. Each time when I was listening to the classical music, I felt like it loves the grand scale, the big sound coming from the speakers, and it prefers this over detail. It tries to fill the room rather than get your attention to the details of the sound. I think this preamp will pair well with somewhat lean analytical power amps or sources. Neutral amps, neutral sources would also be a good choice here. You would get some additional warmth. That's a result of this preamplifier being Class A device. I wouldn't pair it with anything that's excessively warm, because then you'll have a situation with too much of the good thing. Okay. Another thing to note here is that it doesn't do balanced to single-ended conversion, meaning that if your sources are balanced, you should be using balanced output. If your sources are single-ended, you should be using single-ended output. It doesn't do, at least this particular unit without this relays or something, here doesn't do any kind of signal conversion. Okay, so summary for this amplifier. It's very similar in character to FM310A, and I have to check that pairing, but that's still ahead of me because it needs I need time to do that. As I've told you a couple of times in the comments, I'm doing all of this stuff after my regular job, after my regular office hours, so I'm lacking time. Okay, getting back to the sound. It's relaxed, it's smooth, it's a refined sound that will add some Class A beauty to your system. Before you'll ask, is it better than carry preamplifier? In my opinion and in my preference, no. But it's balanced, it has more inputs, and it has superb build quality. though this particular version is missing a remote. All in all, I like it, but for myself, for my preferences, and for pairing with D5 Pro, Darkzil clone, I would still go for carry preamp, because it gives me more speciality, more, I don't know how to describe that, like the star field of music. The music, the sounds are coming literally from every direction. So, again, links and the setup description can be found in the video description. If you enjoyed this short video and if it helped you to decide about buying this preamplifier or not buying this preamplifier, you are more than welcome to support my channel by buying me a beer using super thanks on YouTube. Thank you guys, see you next time. I'll be trying to catch up with reviews for the equipment that I've done the first look videos for, and I'll be adding some new first look videos because these are quick and easy to make, and you literally asked for them when I was doing a poll about that. It will be, I don't know, 5 or 6 months already since that poll. So, super build. The price, I haven't told you the price. I've paid for that something like $350, but the price will be very different between different shops. I try to link to a few of them, to a couple of them, the ones I trust, the ones I've tested, but you have to be aware that the prices will be depending also on the internal build. And sometimes, because right now we are in the middle of winter sale, sometimes some of the sellers are raising the prices just before the sale to lower them somewhat during the sale and to be able to say that this is a very good price, which very often it's not, but sometimes it is. Okay, so that's it. Thank you guys, and see you next time. Bye.